Pero okay, let's start. Welcome everyone to this event, integrating source to sea approaches for biodiversity enhancement and climate adaptation. So happy to see many faces here, also online. Um, I'm going to first give some words on why we decided to come with this event. Um, my name is Viviana Franco. I work for Dutch marine contractor Van Oort. We do a lot of coastal protection. We also work in the waterways. We also do offshore wind, but we are mainly in the marine area. And we have collaborated with a lot of organizations. And this is actually my fourth COP. And we always discussed about, okay, how can we find more synergies between what we do in the coastlines and what's happening in the inland. So that's why we came up with this event today. So we are going to hear a little bit about the expertise of different organizations. And then we will have a discussion, and very happy also to take some questions from the audience at the last part of the session. So I would like to start by introducing the panel and also the organizations that had been collaborating for this event. So please to the panel, Rod Brown, Global Director of Green Grain Infrastructure of Conservation International. Emmanuel Scotto, Manager Global Cooperation and ASTM. Oh, sorry for that. Anders Henriksen, Director of Environmental Science at DHI, which is the Danish Hydraulic Institute. And last but not least, my colleague Tim Helbo, Director of Americas Van Oort. So, I need to switch this so also you can see, oh, here, yes, perfect. Let's start with a very simple question, but with the, is the sound okay? Yeah, okay, yes, super. So let's start with introducing, of course, yourself. So I would like to start with you, Anders. Can you please introduce yourself, and what is your organization expertise on nature-based solutions for biodiversity enhancement and climate adaptation?
Hello, thank you very much. And first of all, I would like to thank for this opportunity to be at the COP30 and be part of this important Water for Climate Pavilion. I think water might be a little bit overlooked at this COP, but here at least there is a chance. I am Anders Eriksen. I'm a Director of Environmental Science at DHI. And very, very briefly, DHI is a research and a technology organization, and we work within water, all kind of water, from drinking water, sewage water, water scarcity, floodings, water in cities, water resources, and marine and coastal waters, as well as offshore waters. And now I say DHI is all about water, and that's the truth, but it also includes all the matters associated with water, water quality, fresh water, and marine habitats, ecosystem, and biodiversity. Being an RTO, we are providing high-level advisory services founded in deep domain knowledge, providing technology and modeling software to assess almost any challenges, freshwater challenges and marine and coastal challenges. At DHI we work on, and I would say of course, both the source-to-sea approach and nature-based solutions on a daily basis. As we know, natural and healthy ecosystems include a wide range of ecosystem services like nutrient retentions, carbon sequestration, flood protection, as well as supporting biodiversity to the benefit of both nature and society.
Yeah?
No, okay, so it's not the pitch yet, is I?
Not the pitch yet, just the
sorry,
introduction.
I'm too fast then.
No, you're on point, but thank you for the introduction. So let's go to Emmanuel, and thank you for telling us all the areas of expertise from DHI, and that you're already working on the source-to-sea approach. Emmanuel, to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Emanuel Escoto. I work for ASTM International, specifically in the Department of Global Cooperation. ASTM International is a global standard development and delivery organization. We provide the tools that and the frameworks that are needed for the projects to be more reliable, to create trust between policymakers and investors, for example. And at Global Cooperation, what we do is that we establish memorandum of cooperation with different countries, mainly developing nations. We provide them access to our standards. We have more than 13,000 standards that they can use. They have access to capacity building opportunities, and also they can join our technical committees. And further, I will tell that in natural-based solution, we have many standards that apply for natural-based solutions for the test, for example, that they need to do for the water or for the reporting that they need. So everything is included in the standards. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will hear more about these standards later in the solutions part of the source-to-sea approach. Now to you, Rod.
Yeah, thank you, Viviana. So my name, I think we cut.
You need to hold it. Yes, yes.
Thank you. All right. My name is Rob with Conservation International. Does that work? Sorry? Oh, you gotta keep it on. Sorry. The receiver's at the bottom, so you need to hold it. Oh, like this. Okay. Got you. All right, I'll get this. Again, sorry. So my name is Rod Braun with Conservation International. I lead our global strategy on coastal adaptation. So we're really integrating nature-based solutions, including green-gray infrastructure. CI, we're a global conservation organization with offices in 30 countries, working in many more countries, and we really focus on three themes. One is climate, ocean protection, and nature-positive economies. So we have a lot of expertise in nature-based solutions, including natural climate solutions like blue carbon programs, and as I'd mentioned, green-gray infrastructure, which is really a hybrid approach using restoration plus engineered features, working together to really optimize resilience and achieve biodiversity outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you, Rod. Now we go to Tim.
Yes, thank you, Viviani, for organizing this event. Tim Hello. I'm responsible for Latin America and working for Van Noord. Van Noord is a company that exists for more than 150 years. And nowadays it has three main businesses: dredging and infra, offshore energy, where we install offshore wind, monopile foundations, and closer. Hold it like that. With
Like
that
a
up.
singer, like this.
Like a singer.
Yes.
Okay, we're not used to that. And recently we have opened a new business line, which is ocean health, where we put activities like coral rehabilitation, mangrove restoration, oyster banks, because we think those deserve scaling. I used to say that we are active anywhere between the land and the sea, but maybe we have to say river, and from the river to the sea nowadays, because we look at the total hydrological cycle. Also inland, for instance, mangroves along the river. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. Along the coast and on the ocean, of course.
Thank you. Yeah. So as you can see, we have different levels of expertise here in the hydrological cycle, watershed, and how we should look at these challenges. And what I like about this panel as well is that we can make it very tangible as well. So we are going to present some project examples. So already proven that this is possible, and also see what are the also some barriers and enablers to scale it. So let's see. Let's start with Rod again. So to you. Oh, sorry. Sorry to Anders. Yes.
Thank you very much. And once again, I mean, to combat climate change, we need to sequester carbon, but also we need to reduce excess nitrogen and phosphorus, often originated from agriculture, wastewater, and urban runoff, traveling through rivers, lakes, and estuaries before reaching coastal waters, impacting ecosystem negatively from source to sea. In this example I've presented in the slide, I have included a case story on a satellite-based tool we at DHI have developed in collaboration with Google, UNEP, and the UNEP DHI Center, the Global Wetland Watch. So, being an advisory service, we are not doing tangible projects like Fanord, for instance, but we are doing the assessments of the benefits of it. And it is extremely important that we monitor whatever we set out to. Slides is from Uganda and showcases how we can use satellite images to map and monitor, for example, seasonal marsh, permanent marsh, lakes, and rivers on a large scale. And as it's stated on the slide, the mapping can also be used for when you do the restoration. It can use for national reporting purpose. It supports the SDG 661 and is still in the making, so it's not fully launched, but the 2026 will be a good year. Freshwater wetlands and marine wetlands hold a significant opportunity to provide ecosystem services like carbon sequestration and nutrient retentions, as well as supporting biodiversity. Why it is important to protect existing wetlands and restore lost ones. But we do not have a global baseline, and therefore we do not know the cumulative pressures from agriculture, mines, and urbanization, and so on. I was on another debate one of the other days, and I have also been at several panel debates also here in the Water for Climate Pavilion. We however need to see or address all benefits holistically, but unfortunately often we see projects only focuses at one issue at the time, either carbon sequestration, or nitrogen, or phosphorus removal, or biodiversity, or coastal protection. So my main point here is that when restoring and or protecting natural habitats and ecosystem, we need to build on quantitative data and tools like models and EO data to ensure cost-effective solution and to enhance the development of natural existing and local species in support of biodiversity. Thanks.
Thank you for this comprehensive example. I think maybe you don't do the projects on the ground, but the role that you are making on building all the data and the models also to predict where do we need to do these projects is fundamental also to take this approach. Let's move on. So we go to Rod for the example.
Yeah, great. So this is about really projects on the ground, right? Implementation. We're thinking about how to really scale this work. And I know people talk about scaling all the time, and that's the toughest thing to crack, right? Is really how to scale this work. And I think we have a proof of concept, and it's a project that is right here, right? We're talking about the Amazon coast. We call it our blueprints for coastal adaptation. And in this case, this project is for the North Brazil Shelf, which includes Brazil, the northern states of Brazil, Suriname, and Guyana, and you can kind of see the map there. And so we're thinking about this in a regional context, essentially, right? So regional resilience across the entire shelf. And so rather than moving from like one-off projects to something much more comprehensive, and you can get an idea of what that looks like. And so we're really prioritizing nature-based solutions, really to think about flood risk reduction, livelihoods, biodiversity outcomes, like I had mentioned earlier, really to the combination of those things. And you can kind of see the map there. It might be hard to see on the upper left of that graphic, but we're looking across the entire coastline and thinking about conceptual designs that work based on different typologies so that we could transfer that information across the coastline to different government agencies, really for them to adopt this work, right? So if we can come up with conceptual designs based on coastal processes, we really see it accelerating the work essentially. And so it consists of conceptual designs, engineering guidelines, but as ultimately we want to get to a pipeline of projects. So think about a 10-year work plan of projects, right? And that's how we get to that regional resilience, moving from community-based to more regional, sharing information across Guyana, Suriname, and Brazil, where the coastline tends to be similar. So we think it's a great way to sort of accelerate adoption of this work. And then, of course, we want demonstration projects in each country, really, so people can see them, touch them, see how you design them, really kind of understand what they.
Maybe use this one.
So thinking about these demonstration projects, we want one in each of the countries, and so we have a case study here in Brazil. Actually, it's not far from here in Belém. It's out near Bragança. It's about a 2 to 3 hour drive. So there was a coastal highway that was constructed from Bragança out to the coast. It interrupted the flow, hydrologic flows, and there's really large mangrove die-off. And it's about 20,000 hectares of coastal habitat, including mangroves. So there's been a large die-off. The system is under stress. And so here, it's a kind of an interesting typology, and we see this in many places where roads really fracture habitats. So there's a real opportunity here to integrate nature-based solutions to reestablish those flows across the highway, and you can see that in the graphic on the bottom. That white line is the highway that runs out to the coast. And so really restoring those flows, we can restore about 700 hectares of mangroves and enhancing of about 20,000 hectares of coastal habitat. About 65,000 community members use that road, and it's the only access to and from Bragança. So imagine it really provides a community benefit in terms of sort of the natural systems, fisheries, crabbing, but it's also really a lifeline for essential services for the community. So this is, I think, a really interesting project. We're getting close to having it fully designed, so we're seeking funding commitments, and we'd love to get this one funded. So folks have ideas around that, please reach out to us. We have information, but I think it's a really exciting project that's based right here locally. Thank you.
Hello, yes. This one is also not working, sorry. Let's see, how can we fix it? Yeah, so while we fix the microphone, I would like to reflect on of course, the two examples that we had. So from one side, we had Anders more on the model sides and also already implemented Source to Sea and Conservation International, which, I mean, thank you so much for giving us this example here in the region. But also, I really like to highlight that ecosystems don't have really a boundary. So how can we really look at this type of projects, not only like, okay, we are in Brazil, but no, how can we really look at the whole ecosystems and how these are connected? Because also some of these projects are in remote areas when only one road is available to reach other areas. So like this is really adding a lot of benefits for a community, economical growth. And to finish with the highlights, scale up. So really, how can we scale up this type of projects? And with scale up, actually, I would like to go to team, because that's our intention as a company, to support and collaborate to scale up this type of projects, because we have the tools and we can come up and use the term mutilao, no, to get hands-on, like the motto of this COP. So with that, I would like to give the floor to you, Tim.
Yes, as an example project, we brought a case in Vietnam. This is in the Mekong Delta. The Mekong Delta is home to 84% of the mangroves in Vietnam. But unfortunately, due to erosion, it's losing 2,000 hectares per year. And that is mainly due to a loss of vegetation, loss of mangroves along the river. And so we developed a vision how to, with an integrated approach, how we can bring certain nature-based solutions together, to work together, to stack their benefits, and to make an integrated solution. And that solution is improving the way that the shrimps are being farmed at the moment. That also protects the coast and stops the loss of the mangrove area, and at the same time provides sequestration of CO2 while, by restoring the mangroves. And so we've put all of that together in this plan. We call it a Mangrove Agriculture Demonstrator Project. And what we're trying to achieve is that by stacking these benefits, that we can actually make it a bankable business case, a sustainable and bankable business case. And based on that, we can scale it up. I mean, this is just a demonstrator, but if we can, just like you, we can show that it works, then there's a huge project to be developed there. And as we speak, we have colleagues in Vietnam that are also presenting this locally and trying to further this and scale this up locally with the stakeholders in Vietnam.
Wait.
Thank you, Tim, for this great example indeed. I mean, like we are also having here multiple benefits, purification of the water from the aquaculture activities, but also like a building business case, also looking into private funding for this type of project so we can upscale, which we know that the public funding is not going to be enough. So really looking also how to be creative as well on this type of projects, how to be creative with nature-based solutions. So thank you for the examples. So actually now we are going to move into a more interactive way so you don't fall asleep. So, yeah, okay, so we have the example. Do you want to introduce the example now? Or once is so let me then, I start with the questions because we would like to, okay, let's start then with the main enablers. So we are going to touch two things here in the round table. The first is like what our opportunities are when we are thinking about source to sea approach, and from your organization perspective, how we can introduce those. So with that, I would like to start with Emmanuel, because here you have a lot of things to say, to share with us on the opportunity side, and then we will also give the floor with some of our colleagues in the audience to also share some of their perspectives, and then we move around. Yeah.
Thank you, Vivian. Well, actually, when I was listening the presentations, we are talking a lot about community solution, adaptation, scaling the projects, and having this framework. So I wanted to propose, probably we are here to have these conversations, to unite and to have like a common ground and identify those solutions actually. And I believe it's true. I'm working for ASTM International, and we develop international standards. So with these standards, actually, it's a good way to expedite these processes and projects and make them reliable and credible for the international community. When we standardize them, many other countries, many other people already will have the document, will have the standard that they can use to replicate this project. So I want to extend the invitation to all of you to join us. We have this logo that we say, we welcome everyone to our tables. So we welcome people from remote areas of the world. We welcome people that are already working in these projects. We welcome people that want to produce, or we welcome indigenous people that they may be having the difficulties and they are triggered to find the solution. So welcome everyone. We have this QR code actually. As I mentioned it before, we have a memorandum of understanding for developing nations. If you come from a country that we have a memorandum of understanding, you can join us for free. But also we have low entry barriers to join our technical committees. Do you imagine that if you put this project into a standardized process and discuss it with many technical experts that are coming from around the world, because we have 34,000 volunteers, scientific and technical members from around the world. So you will have this also extended conversation, not probably with me, but with them to discuss. So right now, talking about natural-based solutions, we are working on two solutions. One is for urban heat, and the other one is for prevent inland flood. So what we are doing is that in the urban heat, we are using vegetal-based solutions. So the communities and the people are going to use this to, and we through the standard we are producing like the metrics so that they can report on what the results has been like if the temperature has been reduced or if the ecological or the environment has been changed in this way. The other project is using river, wetlands, and all of that to avoid or to attenuate the flooding in the areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Emmanuel, for starting with all the enablers that we can have also to upscale this type of projects. So, since we started with enablers, I would like to also give the floor to two of the members of the audience. So I would like to start with Miguel. You are for Fonplata, one of the banks in Latin America working with a lot of different topics, but I will allow you to speak. I would like to ask you, what are the main enablers that you see from your finance perspective to introduce the source to sea approach in the area?
Thank you so much. I am Miguel Fernandez. I represent Fonplata. It's a development bank. We work in Brazil, Argentina, Peru, Bolivia, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, and Brazil. Before going into the enablers, I would like to highlight three challenges that we see from the bank. The three challenges are related to scientific aspects. The first one is that there is a lot of complexity in terms of modeling the environmental system and how that has repercussions into our way to assess risk in our infrastructure projects. The second challenge is about boundaries, that administrative boundaries normally do not overlap with basin, hydrological basins boundaries. So when you fund a project, we have multiple projects here in Brazil, and I'll give you an example on one of them where we are talking with a major of a municipality, and we're trying to convince him if he can convince the next major on the next town, because the water has an impact on both communities, and if we don't tackle both at the same time, we have a problem. So, and the third thing that I think it's the main enabler. Being said that, I think it's that there is an asynchrony between the timing on financial cycles, policy cycles, research cycles. These things we need to figure it out a way so they can converge a little bit, so we could work better in the temporal dimension. So yeah, thanks.
Thank you, and it's great to have you here from your financial perspective. And indeed, like I'm originally from Colombia, and I also see this like from departments. Colombia is divided by departments, and they don't talk to each other even if they share the same river basin. So indeed, like I think sitting and talking is very important as well. And then I would like to give the floor also to Sharu. So again on the enablers, since Emmanuel started with enablers, so see how we can combine it also. So please introduce yourself and your organization.
Thank you, panelists, first of all, for all your insights. I believe great job, and I am so thrilled to hear everyone doing the great job in water sector. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Charu Mishra, and I am from India. And the foundation I work for is Dholakya Foundation, and we are very much focused upon ecosystem restoration, wherein two focus area is water conservation and afforestation. Speaking of the water conservation, now when we are speaking, we have been rejuvenated over 170 water bodies, which are comprises of ponds and lakes, and we have been planted more than 3.5 million trees back in India. So this is what we are doing, and as an organization, we also look for how every initiative has a sync with government and communities, because we see water as a public property, and we believe that whatever asset we are creating for the community has to go back to community, and then they have to look after the assets that has been created. We cannot be the sole owner of the water body throughout. It should be going back to community. They should aware of what has been created for them for free. Because what happens a lot of time, community has becomes very comfortable of the life that they are living, whether it is, even if it is water scarcity, they are very comfortable. They don't even imagine that they can have a water supplies in a very direct manner. So they are very comfortable. They don't feel like doing anything. But when they see the change, oh, okay, fine, water can be a source that can be immediately available for us, and then this slowly and gradually becomes a part of the initiative, and that's what we believe. We don't want to be the only owner of the conservation projects. We want community to come together, be a part of the entire conservation event that we are doing. Government should be there, because every water body rejuvenation takes a lot of government approval. We cannot do everything on our own. We need government to be on our side. So we try to balance, or we try to bridge that gap which is there with government and community. We try to bring all of them together, and that's how we are here conservating more rivers in sync with government and community, and that's how we are still performing and going great with that. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your experience, and indeed, it seems that it's working very well, like connecting the communities and also like giving them ownership as well. So I'm going to rephrase a little bit the question, because Rod and team, you're already doing some projects, same as Anders. What enablers do you need to upscale this type of projects? And maybe I will start with you, Anders.
Thank you very much. And actually, I'm very much in line with what you're saying, which is basically what we need to change to be able to do these kind of stuff at scale. And one thing is that, I mean, there's knowledge we are still lacking. We know that nature-based solution works in many ways, but and I've been at the presentations that talks about all the good stuff about nature-based solutions, but never to what extent it actually works. How much does it sequester? If we are using it for coastal protection, how much wave energy does it lose through a mangroves? And before we can scale up and use it for coastal protection or to do investment for carbon sequestration, we need to have those numbers. DHI is often considered the consultants of the consultants, and when we talk to developers and to engineering consultants, these are the numbers they need, else they cannot engage in a project. And we basically, as a research and technology organization, would actually like to invite academia and public-private partnerships to collaborate to get those data, because there is still a data gap, although we know it works. And the other part is about the cycle of the funding that you mentioned also. And I was at the Indonesian pavilion listening to a panel debate on mangrove restoration the other day. And one of the things that they talked about is that the projects are inherently complex. That's what we're all talking about, and we know about those kind of stuff. But the restoration projects need flexible long-term funding frameworks that can start quickly and follow ecological and not administrative cycles.
Yeah, no, that's okay, Anders. Thank you for highlighting indeed like all the data that we need, and we also need some consistency in this data as well to really be able to use it and prove these benefits. So I would like to go to you, Tim, on what are the enablers that we need.
No, actually, I agree a lot with what Anders was saying. Maybe to add to that, we need frameworks for awarding these kind of projects. Many times we are faced with tenders that already have specifications. It cannot be changed, especially here in Latin America. If you want to add a nature-based solution for the benefit of a project, it's not even possible because the whole license has to be changed. They have to go back years in time. So we need room within the permitting and in the whole legislative framework to be able to suggest these kind of projects and to carry them out. And secondly, as well as Anders also pointed out, we need ways to measure the performance or forecast the performance, to have indicators, clear, standardized indicators that forecast the performance and then monitor them, but to make them bankable and financeable.
Great, thanks. Yeah, I think I agree with all this. I think the these standards, making them bankable, and I think this idea of working with ASTM on standards is really critical. But there's a couple of things that we've been working on, and we've had a global green-gray community of practice tackling, I think, some of these challenges, and we see as enablers. And one is really supporting that technical capacity. We know that a lot of organizations, governments, you talk to engineers, whether it's Public Works, Ministry of Infrastructure, I think folks really want to support nature-based solutions, but designing them, how they perform, sort of those technical specs are challenging, and there's no way we can scale if folks have to reinvent a project each time. So that's really some of the things we're thinking about. So I think these standards with ASTM and sort of the engineering guidelines that we're working on, and specifically in the North Brazil Shelf, for fostering adoption are really critical pieces, really, to kind of accelerate this work. The other is really incentivizing nature-based solutions or green-gray infrastructure through policy. That I think it's another area that's super critical that needs to go in parallel with sort of the technical capacity building. So really incentivizing this work, codifying it in sort of legislation like Pro Mangazal in Brazil. The Mangrove Decree is a great framework to start that and show the importance of mangroves for both mitigation and adaptation, right? Mangroves are providing a level of service in terms of flood protection, and we're able to quantify those pretty well, right? And we can start designing projects in terms of how they will reduce flood risk. So I think we're getting there. And the last piece is the financing that Tim mentioned as well. And so thinking about the return on investment, really kind of doing a robust cost-benefit analysis to determine, how do you tip the scales towards something that integrates nature-based solutions versus gray only. And I think maybe just to mention something that our colleague from Fundo Plata mentioned in terms of some of these challenges and the scale, and I think there's like a time scale. We're working kind of at the wrong time scale. We look at a single project perhaps, and he said, and there's, you get new electeds in every 4 years or 2 years or 6 years, right? And it's really hard to have that continuity. And so we tend to be thinking about the wrong scale. We need to work at a scale that is more commensurate with the issue of climate itself, right? So we're sort of, in this idea of just working on one individual project, but we got to figure out how to go from the community to more regional. And I think that's our proof of concept in North Brazil Shelf, to kind of make that transition. And then the last piece on finance is thinking about mangroves, tidal marsh, coral reefs really as natural infrastructure, right? They really are critical infrastructure, providing a level of service. And so we should fund them just like we fund roads and bridges in a way, right? So I think the biggest hurdle is getting to that point so that folks can recognize, that governments can recognize the importance of natural infrastructure really as critical infrastructure, and then sort of develop, I mentioned a pipeline of projects so that it's something that development banks can start funding these larger packages, right? 10 years of projects, 10 projects over 10 years. I think we need to be working at that scale. A demonstration's great, but we need to really thinking about down the road and long-term work.
Yes, please, if you would like to complement.
Oh, I cannot agree with you more. And I would like to give it a little bit of my background. I was a researcher 6 months ago in Germany. I have a PhD from UC, and I was brought into this bank because the bank didn't have the capacity to do sustainable, right? To do this in a sound science manner. So when I arrived to the bank, I was like, I was facing the challenge because I didn't have resources. I was, all by myself in this office trying to figure out how the heck am I going to do some science? How am I going to bring some science into the project that we have? The portfolio of the bank, $6 billion. And most of the projects are in highly dense urban areas. So I need to bring science. So I thought a little bit about MacArthur and Wilson, the fathers, of island biogeography. And I said, let's take a look at the parks in urban areas. And let's think about these parks as islands. I have a colleague from my previous life that had published a paper on this using citizen science. So I brought that theory into the process, and I'm starting to get some metrics that can help us assess the impact of our decisions. So I think there is power there. So I don't know how far I'm going to get, but I think I'm starting to get some traction within my people, the wallet. So we'll see. But I think we need to be creative to find these nature-based solutions in areas where we live. It's not only about the remote areas; it's urban areas.
Thank you for the great addition. And I think, indeed, I'm not an expert on finance, but I think banks also need to look at the benefits in a different way. And also the risk assessments also need to change so we can really introduce nature-based solutions and have these benefits as well. So I hope you only cannot do it in the Fond Plata, but also that you share this knowledge and expertise with all the developing banks in Latin America and other parts of the world. So next year, maybe COP31, you can also share already some of the insights. So we touch about a lot of enablers, right? Like what do we need to also upscale? We also talk a little bit about the challenges. Is there any of you that would like to highlight any other challenge that hasn't been mentioned? Like looking into the current scenario and the projects that you are developing, is there something else that you see, okay, this is stopping us really on upscaling this type of projects, or why are we not doing enough of the source to sea approach in the way that we are doing? So we have, of course, talk about the tenders and how everything is already in place, the frameworks, and also the really short-term thinking from the governments when it's about this type of projects. Is there something else that you would like to add? Tim, I see you.
Yeah, one thing is to be early involved, but that's related to the tenders as well. The other thing is I think we fail to see that it's one system. From the river to the sea is one hydrological system. We also as a company are focused more on the coastal adaptation projects, but we must respect the hydrological cycle and look at the whole water system and think of solutions in that cycle, and then also look at how can we bundle the benefits of our projects that we're designing. And not doing that is stopping us from seeing the bigger picture.
Well, I wanted to add, this is a challenge in our case, is because many organizations or the government or the investors, the banks, do not really see the value that the standards bring to these solutions. Because as I was mentioning, we put together technical people, we put together communities, we put together policy people as well, that they come and they, for example, they evaluate these metrics, they make the test, and they do interlaboratory studies to confirm that the test and the metrics that we are providing or that the producers are providing are scientifically tested and are credible and reliable. So this is a huge challenge, like having everyone coming and coming to the table and put their input. If you have, for example, at ASTM, there is no like one country vote. We have a balance of both producer, users, consumers. All of them has the right to vote. And all the decisions are discussed among the community. We always say we are not part of the solution. We are not inviting to this conversation, but we have this model that invite everyone to the table. So that is the actual challenge. So people say, you have to come to us, and we tell them, come to us and have this conversation. Bring your results, bring your project, bring your new test, and we will put it to the table for discussions with technical people that use the same language. Thank you.
Okay, so oh yes, Rod, sorry. I didn't mean to.
That's okay. I'll be brief on this one. I think what our gentleman said from ASTM, this idea of really community engagement is really important on this work. And I think oftentimes consultants and folks like pop into a country, they make a visit, try to figure out the problem, they leave, and they leave the folks behind, to some degree. And I think at Conservation International, one of our superpowers is really that community engagement, really, getting to know the communities and integrating the community knowledge. Integrating local knowledge is really critical, I think, to developing those solutions. I think what we can do is we can come in with that technical knowledge, coastal assessments, but then that integration of the local knowledge is absolutely critical. Because folks who live on the coast or wherever they are in the watershed, they have their finger on the pulse of how the system behaves, right? They know what happens on a daily basis, how the system changes in the evening, in the morning, the tides change, and so integrating that knowledge is really absolutely critical, and we shouldn't forget that.
Indeed, I think this is the foundation of the projects, and we shouldn't forget that. Before we move into the last part, I would like to know if in the audience is any question that you would like to address. Yes. Is there maybe another microphone or this one? Okay, we only have one microphone working, so I'm moving across the room. Can you also please introduce yourself and your organization? Yeah.
It is so wonderful to have a working microphone. I'm coming from the Australian pavilion. All of our microphones are broken. We hope to host COP next year and keep this conversation going. So my name is Mara Boone. I'm a director of the board of Australia's largest environmental services business, a company called Green Collar that works in nature markets, carbon markets, and water markets. On the Great Barrier Reef, we have the challenge of significant deforestation of large grazing properties, and the sedimentation flows creates great harm to the reef. The stressor on adaptation is huge. And so we have now been gradually mounting the business case for a reef credit market. It is now a regulated market with a method that enables restoration with a return that depends on buyers buying the outcome. And so my question is, if there's common experiences, the government of Queensland is buying some of the outcomes and they are regulating the ports to buy the outcomes, and now we're gradually getting a voluntary market with Qantas, some of our airlines buying the outputs. But of course we have the challenge of lack of trust in carbon and other markets. And so is there an experience of creating the demand side of a market-based mechanism that can enable that connection with so many benefits?
Thank you for this great question and timing. Who dares to reply to this question? Anders?
Well, the quick answer is no. That's not what I'm saying. But the thing is that, and that's the difficult part about the nature part, is that we are trying to predict something which is extremely not linear. So I'm hoping that you will benefit from it. I know from the carbon crediting part, we have been involved in some projects, and back to the risk assessment. I mean, we have to predict how many credits can you get within a period of 30 years, and then be scientifically sound. And also very quickly, they want to rely on not inventing the project every time, but just if they could look in the catalog and just say, doing this kind of project will provide so many credits, they will be happy. But that's extremely difficult. So there's no quick, I don't think there's any answer to that one, but I'd be very much happy to know more about it.
Anyone else would like to add? No? So then we go back to the question to clarify it.
So we have a regulated carbon market in Australia with approved methodologies that require regular topping up of measurement of whether predicted growth has achieved. We are now required to use LiDAR in live measurement of biomass coming out of the ground. In terms of the reef credits, Geoscience Australia, the Bureau of Meteorology, and our science agencies measure visually the sedimentation coming into every major event. So we must use technology, and we have gotten to the stage where our company, the investor in our company, is the Ontario Teachers' Pension Plan. And the Canadian pension industry is now unlocking investment because we are beginning to create markets that are stable. Nature is uncertain. Nature is all about risk. But we can measure that risk, and we have to improve that, you know. So let's come at it with confidence. It's not easy, but to buy the offtake, to bring the corporates in, we have to have confidence.
Thank you for the great contribution to the discussion, and I think indeed we need to keep measuring and keep creating this data and talking to each other, and also looking at this risk assessment, but also from a project perspective, how we can deal with that. Looking at the time, so we have been indeed talking about some of the enablers, but also challenges, and I would like to ask you some, the last question actually for each of you to close the panel. We need to look forward, right? Like, so I would like to imagine that we will meet again at COP31. What are you going to start doing that you are not doing right now to make this happen, to upscale this type of project, to maybe come and tell me next year, yeah, look, Viviana, we have done this and this because we committed 1 year ago. So who would like to start with this question? Anders, okay, you're decided to go, yeah.
Trying to finish up quickly then, right? No, so what we have started out to do is trying to collect the data we need to be more reliable on the predictions on the coastal side. So we've been running through a number of guides, Dutch guides, core engineer guide, Canadian guides, just to try to understand how far are we in understanding the risk and the benefits in quantitative measures. And that's what we are starting. We will come up with a white paper, not this year, probably early next year, trying to summarize the things and then inviting on science and academia and partnerships on building closing that knowledge gap. That will be 31 will be finished. No, not finished, but they have an overview.
Thank you, Vivian, for the question. Actually, ASTM is innovating. Almost every day or every time the committee meets, are bringing new solutions, are having new conversations, or we are receiving new items to work on, or we receive many items, probably we don't work on all of them. We have to pre-select on all the items. So what I would say to start doing is probably outreaching more to organizations that are working on projects already, like this nature of projects, because I believe we can work together, and it could be a great outcome actually of this COP, and to have the results in COP31. So work together, standardize these processes and projects, and have the solutions out for the public. Thank you.
So before we move to Rod and the team, so I leave you a little bit more time to think, I would like to go first to Miguel and Charu. What are you going to start doing now that you are not doing, and so we can come up in COP31 from Fonplata? I know you have been only 6 months in the role, but something that with this experience you can share with us.
So probably what I'll try to do is try to collect more data on my own projects. I'm thinking about perhaps using frameworks that are established to collect information on how nature is doing. I was thinking about using something called the essential biodiversity variables as a framework to collect information, and then perhaps I can understand how good or bad I'm doing.
Thank you. And indeed, I also am fan of also using all the data that is available and also using the data and the indicators that are being developed here at COP. So maybe we can also start looking at the global goal on adaptation and the indicators that are meant to help on measuring. Sharo, to you.
I won't say we will start something new, but of course we would like to build upon few things that we have just started. Number one is to have more scientific information with us. We have been saying that we have developed these many water bodies, it has been impacted these many farmers, but to have more scientific information that how it has impacted biodiversity overall, because water and tree plantation does a lot of great things to the environment. So how do we measure that? We should have more reports on that. Secondly, how when we say that these many farmers have been impacted, then how we can measure that scientifically to have the proven records. Not only we say that we have done a lot of things, but the scientific information or the data should also say that yes, all of these works has been done, and these are the scientific proven records of all of that. Second, to have more partnerships in place, because we cannot have all the expertise with our organization all alone. There are people sitting in front of me who have been expertise in different levels when we talk about science, AI and all of that. So maybe such partnership should be in place for us to talk about more work and also give us more pathways to how we can improve as an organization, because we are not the expert of all the things that we are doing. Third, I would say have more funds in place, because when we actually say that we are the implementers of such projects, that requires a heavy fund. You need a lot of heavy machineries to be involved. You need a lot of human resource to be involved. So of course, fund is also something that we are looking at, and of course we believe such collaborations would also work in expanding our initiatives in different countries altogether. So I think these are the few things that I would like to mention. Answer to your question.
Thank you for the great question. I think you can start having great connections here in the panel. I will give the floor to you, Rod.
Great. So to get to COP31, I think one of the things we are doing is expanding our global green-gray community of practice, and I think that is absolutely critical to build capacity globally for that. So I call on folks to join that. We need your expertise on whether it's the technical know-how, the policy, or the financing. So I really encourage folks to join that. So you can Google that, you can find us. So I think that's a great way to work. And it kind of links to what you just mentioned about collaboration. So I think through that community of practice, it'll be critically important, the collaboration we see, like I mentioned in the North Brazil Shelf, and sharing those lessons learned, sharing that technical information across a region can really help us essentially accelerate this. And then what we hope to also get to is financing maybe that demonstration project that I presented, right? So structuring that deal to show that you can finance this work as you would maybe traditional infrastructure, because it provides that level of service that I talked about.
Yeah, yeah. For what I've come to realize visiting this COP is that there are so many pieces of the puzzle available, so many perspectives, so much information sitting with different people, different organizations, and so for me, next year on the next COP, I will have reached out to other people, other organizations, looked for alliances that I wasn't looking for before, because I think it's really necessary. And every day my appreciation for the theme of this COP, the multi-round, increases, because that's the deal. That's what we need to do. The other thing what I was thinking, and thank you for making the contribution, we are used to dealing with risks in our job. When we look at the production of our machinery, we make risk assessments. When we buy stocks on the market, we take a risk. But if we go to the final extent of trying to assess the risk of starting a carbon credit system, we'll never get started. And it's great to hear that you guys already did that. And let's be flexible. Let's adapt it as we go. But let's get started.
Well said, team. I think these were great closing remarks. So I'm very happy, actually, that we could have a conversation like this, very open and hearing all different perspectives. I thank you also for the audience online, and of course for the Water for Climate Pavilion to support, to bring together this this event. Actually, as Vanor, we are core partners of the Water for Climate Pavilion since Glasgow. So it wouldn't be possible without also the organizations behind the Water for Climate Pavilion. So big thanks to Ivan as well at the back to make also possible this. And I would like to close indeed with applause to all these expertise, but also the one that we have in the audience. And I hope that by COP31 we can bring this conversation forward and show you also how we are advancing into this type of projects and making it really tangible for the communities, but also for nature. So thank you so much for being here. And yeah, that's it for today. Yeah.